Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into the incredibly liberating world of writing purely for the love of the craft. We're going to talk about the absolute foundation of hobby writing, what it actually is, why it matters so much, and how it can completely change your relationship with the dreaded blank page. So, I want you to ask yourself something. What if you wrote purely for yourself, with no rules but your own? Seriously, just imagine it for a second. Imagine completely shedding the pressures of hustle culture, the constant need to monetize every single hobby, and all those heavy external expectations. Picture sitting down to create something solely for your own enjoyment, with absolutely no one looking over your shoulder to judge the final product. Sounds pretty amazing, right? Let's kick things off with Section 1, the pure joy of writing, defining the craft. Before we go any further, we need to really ground ourselves in what hobby writing actually is. Basically, hobby writing is the practice of writing purely for personal enjoyment, creative expression, and, well, just the love of the craft. It means you are writing simply because you want to. You're completely free from chasing paychecks, you aren't stressing over grades from a professor, and you definitely aren't sweating over looming deadlines from a publisher. The motivation to create? It comes entirely from within you. Think of it exactly like weekend painting, playing the guitar in your bedroom, or just tending to a backyard garden. For those activities, the activity itself is the reward, you know? You aren't gardening to become some big commercial farmer, right? You just like getting your hands in the dirt. And hey, if a beautiful, delicious tomato, or in our case, a really great story comes out of it later, that is fantastic, but that's never the actual point of sitting down to do it. Moving on to Section 2, hobby versus traditional writing, the Great Divide. To truly grasp the sheer relief of this practice, we have to pit it against the rigid constraints of traditional writing. Traditional writing, man, it feels heavy. It's intense. You've got fixed dates and schedules, strict word count limits set by publishers, and gatekeepers like editors and agents constantly evaluating your worth. You absolutely must appeal to a market, you're usually locked tightly into one specific genre, and your entire end goal is publication and sales. It is a super high-pressure environment. But then, look at hobby writing. Just breathe that in. You write whenever you want. There are absolutely no word limits. Write 100 words or 1,000,000, it doesn't matter. You are your own publisher. You write for yourself first. You can mix, blend, or completely invent your own genres. Your only goals here are enjoyment and expression. The relief is palpable, isn't it? The crucial pattern here really boils down to this: outside forces versus entirely by you. Traditional writing is constantly being shaped, molded, and constrained by all those outside forces. Hobby writing, on the other hand, just removes all those external constraints and hands the steering wheel directly back to you. You are completely in charge of the destination and, of course, the speed at which you travel. As one of our sources perfectly puts it, hobby writing can still feel like work sometimes. The difference is that you chose the work. And that's a really important distinction to make. Writing still requires effort, thought, and mental energy. Getting a sentence to sound exactly right in your head isn't always effortless. But the magic here is that nobody is forcing this work onto you, and absolutely nobody can take it away. You opted in. Okay, let's jump into Section 3, exploring your writing options, a playground of forms. So, now that you're thoroughly liberated from the traditional rules of the publishing industry, what can you actually write? Seriously, ask yourself that right now. What sounds fun? Because guess what? There is no official list. There's no rigid curriculum you have to follow, and that's exactly the freedom we're talking about here. The whole point is that you can write whatever sparks your interest in that exact moment. If you need a little jumpstart to your imagination, you've got an incredible variety of options. You can dive into complete short stories or just tinker with novel fragments. Honestly, maybe just write one scene of a book you'll never finish. That's totally fine. You can explore emotional, image-driven prose poetry or capture small slices of life with vignettes. You can sit down for some free writing or personal journaling with absolutely no destination in mind. If you're a lore nerd, you can literally just write world-building notes, inventing magic systems, cultures, languages, or histories, just for the fun of it. You can write character sketches or dive into fan fiction to write new, exciting stories for characters you already love. Or you can try out personal essays to work through your own complex ideas. It is entirely up to you. And hey, if that list felt a little overwhelming, just remember this. You do not have to pick one. You don't have to brand yourself as just a novelist or a poet or a world builder. You can spend an entire month carefully crafting a chapter for a sprawling sci-fi novel and then spend the very next afternoon writing a single, simple, lovely haiku. Most hobby writers fluidly move between several of these forms depending purely on their mood that day. That is allowed. Actually, scratch that, it's encouraged. This brings us to Section 4, the freedom of hobby writing, the ultimate freedom. Let's synthesize exactly why hobby writing is considered one of the most rewarding creative practices out there. First off, no genre is off limits. You want to write a fantasy romance set on a dilapidated space station but narrated by a gritty noir detective? Do it. There is no marketing team in a boardroom telling you it won't sell. Second, you build your own natural voice. Because you aren't trying to sound like the current bestseller list, your unique style develops completely organically. You can mix and blend freely horror and comedy, memoir and fantasy. The borders between genres are just suggestions, not laws. There is zero external pressure. No editor, no deadline, no reader complaints to manage. The only person whose taste actually matters at the start is yours. And finally, the ideas literally never run out. Let's expand on that last, very important point. When you completely free yourself from chasing commercial trends, almost anything can become fuel for your writing. I'm talking about a cafe conversation you overheard, a weird dream you had last night, a strange building you walked past, or even a memory from years ago. Everyday life becomes this infinite resource for your creativity because you're open to being inspired by the mundane, just as much as the extraordinary. This leads us to an incredibly powerful realization. The moment you write freely, new ideas appear faster than you can use them. It's a profound shift in how your brain works. The moment you start writing purely for the joy of it, the possibilities become truly endless. You can never run out of ideas because the simple act of unstructured, joyful creation acts like a giant magnet for even more inspiration. The more you write for fun, the more fun ideas come knocking on your door. As we wrap up today's explainer, I want you to internalize this core truth. Hobby writing belongs to you. It is its own thing with its own rewards. I cannot stress this enough. This is not some smaller, lesser, or amateur version of professional writing. No way. It is a complete, joyful, and completely valid practice in its own right. It's a space entirely your own, built for your enjoyment, your expression, and your growth. So I have one final question to leave ringing in your ears. What will you write today? Whether it's a sprawling, epic fantasy world, a quiet, reflective memory from your childhood, or just a few uninhibited, messy paragraphs about your morning coffee. The blank page is waiting for you, and for the first time, it's waiting on entirely your own terms. Embrace the freedom, have fun with it, and